Okay, good day everyone. Let's proceed to our next discussion regarding the communicable diseases. So the first diseases that affecting the central nervous system, that is the encephalitis. So encephalitis is an acute inflammatory conditions or infections of the brain, usually occurring as complications or sequel to some viral diseases, and it is characterized by various degrees and manifestations of cerebral dysfunctions. So as we can see, encephalitis is the inflammations of the brain tissue. And there is classifications of encephalitis. We have the primary encephalitis and secondary encephalitis. So in the primary encephalitis, it is caused by the direct invasions of the central nervous system by arboviruses, resulting in the implementation or in the inflammations of the brains. So there are different types of encephalitis. Name for the place that viruses was discovered or the animal species that carry by the viruses. Okay, so let's start with the first one. We have the Eastern equine encephalitis. So this is principally affects young children and people older than 55 years old. More fatal than the Western type. So both types, the Eastern and Western, cause severe symptoms in infant, which may result in permanent nerve and brain damage. So that is for Eastern equine encephalitis. Next one, we have the Western equine encephalitis. So it is an acute inflammations of the brain or parenchyma and meninges. It is caused by the alpha virus, which is spread primarily by the bite of Culex and Aedes mosquito. And the third one, we have the St. Louis encephalitis. That is, the organism is believed to enter through the olfactory tract. The risk of death is greater in the older adults. And lastly, in the primary encephalitis, ito po yung pinaka-common na meron tayo, which is the Japanese encephalitis. So, potentially, severe viral disease that is spread by the bite of an infected mosquito. That is the Culex, okay, that are prevalent in the rice-growing, pig, and poultry raising region. So, the mosquito breeds in flooded rice paddies and standing water around planted fields. So once the mosquito is infected, it will carry the virus and capable of transmitting the disease for life. Usually, Japanese encephalitis affects children younger than 10 years old. It occurs more in male than in female with the ratio of 3:1. So the case per fatality rate is 30 to 35%. So in the Philippines, the peak season of Japanese encephalitis is March to April, September, October, because where the rice fields are flooded in the water. So yun po yun. Okay? Next one, we have the secondary encephalitis. In the secondary encephalitis, we have the two. Sabi nga natin, secondary encephalitis occurs when an infection starts elsewhere in our body and then travels to your brain or in our brain. So we have the post-infection encephalitis that is usually complications or a sequel to some viral diseases like the measles, chickenpox, and mumps. While on the post-vaccinal encephalitis, commonly associated with anti-rabies vaccine, in rare cases, some common vaccine can also predispose to post-vaccinal encephalitis. So that is for the classifications. Okay, let's proceed for the risk factor. So the risk factor are usually children ages under 1 year and adults ages over 55 years are at risk of the life-threatening complications, and also for those people with the weak immune system. Okay, let's proceed also on the etiology. So, encephalitis may be caused by a variety of pathologic agents such as bacteria, viruses, fungi, and rickettsia. So, there is a toxin or chemical substances or trauma may also include encephalitis. However, there are some cases may have unknown etiology. So usually on the encephalitis, we have the viral encephalitis, may be developed during or after the infections with any several viral illnesses, including the influenza, herpes simplex, measles, mumps, rubella, rabies, chickenpox, and arboviruses infections such as in a West Nile virus. So ngayon, makikita natin yung difference between the primary encephalitis and then the secondary encephalitis. So on the primary encephalitis, we have on the viral encephalitis, the bacterial encephalitis, and protozoal encephalitis. So first one, we have the viral encephalitis. In the viral encephalitis, that is categorized into three groups. Namely, we have the common viruses, we have the childhood viruses, and we have the arboviruses. So pag sinabi natin common virus, that is cause encephalitis developed in countries that is herpes simplex. Okay? The virus typically travels through a nerve to the skin where it causes a cold sore. Okay? In rare cases, the virus can travel to the brain and can cause the infections. Okay? So, number two, we have the childhood viruses. So, vaccine can prevent the occurrence of the childhood viruses that can cause the encephalitis, although these type are rare today. But then some childhood viruses that can cause encephalitis includes, which is the chickenpox, the measles, and rubella. Okay? And the third one, we have the arboviruses or yung tinatawag natin the arthropod-borne viruses. So the arboviral encephalitis may be due to the several arboviruses. There is the natural habitat of these pathogens, which includes the several species of wild birds and domestic fowl. So yung arboviruses natin that can cause the viral encephalitis are often transmitted through the mosquito that belong to the genes of Culex. Okay? Yon, that is active during the day and night. Okay? So, the mosquito takes in the virus by feeding of an infected bird. So, after incubating the virus, anong nangyayari? The body, for 5 to 7 days, the mosquito transmit the virus to the next vertebra in feeds on. So, yung healthy birds, horses, pigs, or humans. So, after that, infections of humans is in the end of the cycle since the human patients cannot spread the virus to the other people. Okay? Likewise, a mosquito cannot transfer the virus from the infected persons to the healthy individual. So, how contagious the infection is depend on which virus had caused the encephalitis. Okay? So that is for the viral encephalitis. Next one, we have the bacterial encephalitis. That is can cause from the word bacterial infections, such as the bacterial meningitis, is spreading directly to our brain. So primarily, that is the primary encephalitis. or can be complications of the current infections or infectious disease like the syphilis. So, dyan naman papasok mga anak yung secondary encephalitis in terms of the bacterial. Okay? And the third one, we have the protozoal encephalitis. Certain parasitic or protozoal infections such as toxoplasmosis, malaria, or primary amoebic meningoencephalitis can also cause encephalitis in people with compromised the immune system. Kaya nga diba sinabi natin kanina, one of the risk factor is the people that have the weak immune system. So the prognosis here is guarded because of some forms of encephalitis have a high mortality rate. So kapag karoon ng severe encephalitis, may leave the individual with permanent neurologic impairment. Okay? So that is protozoal encephalitis. And number 2, we have the secondary encephalitis could be caused by the complication na of the viral infections. Okay? So, kaya nga palagi natin sinasabi kanina that is the incubation period usually 5 to 15 days with the range from 41 to 21 days. Okay, let's proceed to the clinical manifestations. So in the clinical manifestations, there is a manifestation. So number 1, we have the fever. So the fever, elevated body temperature is common response to infections. There is an indicating of the body immune system is activated to fight the viral or the bacterial cause of encephalitis. Number 2, we have the headache. Yung headache naman that is resulting from inflammations of the brain tissues and meninges. So nagkakaroon siya ng meningoencephalitis that can cause pressures and irritations. Next one, we have the vomiting. On the vomiting part, can occur due to increased intracranial pressure or direct irritations of the brain and vomiting centers in the brain stem. Next one, we have the stiff neck. Yung stiff neck naman natin, it's often a sign of meningeal irritations and implementations where the meninges become inflamed and can cause stiff necks. Next, we have the lethargy or lethargy. Okay, so generalized weakness and tiredness due to the body's immune response and the metabolic demand for the fighting of infections. Next, we have the confusions. In the confusions, there is an impaired cognitive functions due to the inflammations affecting the brain functions and disrupting neuronal communications. Okay, and then we have the drowsiness. In the part of the drowsiness, a result of increased pressure within the skull, nagkakaroon tayo ng ICP or intracranial pressure that is affecting the brain arousal center. And then, nagkakaroon din ng hallucinations. Yung hallucinations natin can occur due to the dysfunctions in the cerebral cortex and the limbic system that can cause the inflammations leading to the sensory perception disturbances. And then we have the slower movements. In the slower movements known as bradykinesia that can occur due to the direct effects on the motor centers of the brain or as the secondary effect of the systemic illness. And then we have the coma. Yung coma naman natin, that is severe impairment of the consciousness due to extensive brain inflammations and dysfunctions affecting the reticular activating system. And then we have the seizure. Sa seizure naman natin, that is a result from irritations and abnormal electric activity in the brain due to inflammations affecting neural functions. And we have the irritability. Sa irritability naman natin, that is behavioral changes due to the brain's inflammatory response affecting the mood regulations and emotional control. And then we have the sensitivity to light is photophobia. that is occurs due to the meningeal irritations affecting the optic nerves and processing of the visual stimuli. And lastly, we have the unconsciousness. In the unconsciousness, that is a severe impairment of consciousness, often progressing from the drowsiness to coma due to the widespread inflammations and dysfunctions. Okay, so these are some clinical manifestations. But sabi ko nga kanina, during the prodromal of the fever, there is 1 to 4 days. Patients can experience na the fever, headache, dizziness, vomiting, and apathy. So that is for clinical manifestations. And also, sabi ko nga kanina, there are some patient experience disturbances in swallowing, mastication, phonation, respirations, and movements of the muscles of the eye or face. So, nagkakaroon din tayo na yung sinabi ko nga kanina, that is uncontrollable muscular contraction or twitching of the muscles of the different parts of the body. Okay. As you can see, this is the pathophysiology of our encephalitis. So that is involved the various processes of the implementations or inflammations and damage due to the brain tissue, driven primarily by the infections. So, but can also result of the autoimmune or other causes. So number one here, as you can see, we have the diffuse cerebral edema, congestions, and hemorrhage. So, diffuse cerebral edema, that is inflammations, lead to the increased permeability of the blood-brain barrier that is causing to leak into the brain. Diba? And then we have brain, so nag-resulting in swelling. So, nagkaroon ng edema. So, this increased intracranial pressure, which can compress the brain structure and lead symptoms like the headache, vomiting, altered consciousness. Ano pa? Yung congestions. There is an inflammations, leads to vasodilations and increase the blood flow to the affected areas of our brain, contributing to the vascular congestions. And we have the hemorrhage. Nagkakaroon ng severe inflammations, can weaken our blood vessels, leading to small areas of bleeding within our brain, which exacerbates the damage and can contribute to the neurological symptoms like the seizure and coma, and leading to the necrosis and the degenerations of our neurons, because neurons that is being highly sensitive to the inflammations and infections can undergo the necrosis. So when we say necrosis, that is a cell death. That is a direct result of the viral invasions or as an indirect result of the immune response. So this lead to degenerations of the affected brain regions, impairing the cognitive, sensory, and motor functions that is manifesting as confusions, seizure, and neurological deficit. Okay, in the meningeal congestions with mononuclear infiltrations, perivascular tissue necrosis, and myelin breakdowns, the meninges, or the proactive protective covering of the brain and the spinal cord, become inflamed and congested because or due to the increased blood flow, which contributes to the symptoms like the headache and the stiff neck. And then we have the mononuclear infiltration. So the immune response recruits mononuclear cell, which is the lymphocytes and macrophages, to the site of infections, leading to the further inflammations. So this cell migrates into the meninges and perivascular spaces, which is areas around our blood vessels, that causing a further tissue damage. And the blood vessels themselves surrounding tissue may undergo necrosis due to the intense inflammatory response, contributing to the impaired blood flow and localized brain damage. Okay? And then we have the myelin breakdown. So dito naman, pag sinabi natin kasing myelin, that is the protective covering of the nerve fibers that can be damaged in the encephalitis, impairing signal transmissions between the neurons, leading to the neurological dysfunctions and slower the movements or the reflexes. Okay? Kaya nga diba nagkaroon tayo kanina ng mga disturbances or twitchings of the muscles of the different part. Okay? And then we have the glial proliferations. So dito we have the glial cells. Ano mga yun? We have the astrocytes, the oligodendrocytes, and microglia. So this is play a critical role in supporting the neurons and responding to the injury. So in encephalitis, the glial proliferations occurs at the brain attempts to repair itself. So astrocyte may become hypertrophic or hyperplastic, and then nagkakaroon siya ng or forming glial scars in areas of the neural damage. Okay, so this process, while the protective can be contribute to the scarring and permanent damage into the brain, and down to the demyelinations, vascular and perivascular distractions, and cerebral cortical involvement. So, nagkaroon ng damage sa myelin sheath around the neurons that leads to impaired electrical conductions in our brain that can cause a neurological deficit like weakness, slow movement, and coordination issues. And then, nagkakaroon din ng implementations can lead to the breakdown of our blood vessels surrounding the tissues, further reducing the oxygen and nutrient supplies to our brain. So, there is exacerbating tissue damage. Tapos, yung cerebral cortex natin, which control the higher functions such as thought, memory, and movement, may directly involve the inflammatory process that leading to cognitive symptoms like the confusion, drowsiness, and even coma in severe cases. So, lastly, there in case of rabies or herpes simplex infections, specific inclusions are identified. So, nagkakaroon na siya ng pathological changes are found in falciparum malaria. Kasi, di ba, for example, in rabies encephalitis, there is a negribatis, which is the found in neurons, particularly in our hippocampus and cerebellum, or the pathognomic for the diseases. This inclusion result from the viral replications within our neurons and are associated with the profound neurological symptoms seen in the rabies infections. While on the herpes simplex, there is an herpes simplex virus encephalitis. There is a cowdry inclusions are found in the affected neurons, especially into our temporal lobes, which can open primarily the site of infection. So, kapag ganon, there is an inflammations in these areas that lead to focal necrosis and damage that is contributing to the symptoms such as memory loss, seizures, and personality changes. Yun. Okay, so that is the pathophysiology for our encephalitis. Next, we have the diagnostic procedure or the diagnostic evaluation. So, number one here, we have the cerebrospinal fluid. So, yung cerebrospinal fluid natin or CSF that is studied to help to differentiates the conditions from the meninges. Because CSF analysis is acquired through the lumbar puncture or lumbar tap. Okay, and then we have also the careful health history and physical examination. So, importante rin po dyan. And then we have the, what do you call that, serologic test. Yung serologic test natin, that is 90% confirmatory done on the 7th day of illness. So, meron din tayong ELISA, which is late immunosorbent assay, yung tinatawag natin. And then, yung CT scan. Yan. Yung CT scan natin that is used to determine the changes into the brain structure. And we have the EEG or yung electroencephalography electroencephalograph that is monitors the electrical activity of the brain may show sharp waves in the encephalitis. And meron din MRI. Yung MRI naman or magnetic resonance imaging is the best imaging option for the encephalitis. This procedure can rule out the other causes such as the stroke, aneurysm, or tumor of the brain. Okay? Okay, let's proceed to the management or the treatment for the encephalitis. So here we have, first one, we have the medical management, which is pharmacological management. So to relieve the headaches and fever, we have the anti-inflammatory drugs and antipyretics. So usually, ang binibigay natin dyan, we have the Tylenol, ibuprofen, and naproxen sodium. So yan po yung binibigay natin. For the antiviral drugs, we have the acyclovir and ganciclovir. So, yan po yun. And then we have the mannitol. Yung mannitol natin or glycerol na tinatawag natin may be needed to reduce the intracranial pressure because the mannitol or glycerol is osmotic diuretics used to reduce the cerebral edema by drawing the excess fluid out of the brain into the bloodstream. Okay, we have the corticosteroids or dexamethasone. So, ito naman, same rin lang siya, inflammations, reduce inflammations in the brain by suppressing the immune system. So, nakakatulong ito na mag-decrease yung edema around the brain tissue and alleviate the symptoms related to the brain swelling. So, such as the headache, seizure, or altered consciousness. Okay? And then we have the antibiotics, which is indicated when bacterial encephalitis or bacterial meningitis is suspected or confirmed. And then we have the vitamins and mineral supplementation. So, ito help to address any deficiencies that may arise due to the systemic illness or during the prolonged hospitalizations. For example, vitamin B are essential for maintaining the proper neurological functions and deficiencies. Okay, and then we have the IV fluid therapy and dopamine. Ito naman binibigay natin to maintain the hydrations and ensure the adequate blood volume, especially kapag yung patient natin are experiencing fever, vomiting, or unable to eat or drink. And then we have the anticonvulsive drugs. Bakit tayo nagbibigay? Diba? Sabi ko nga kanina, there is a result of seizures. That seizure result from the inflammations and irritations of our brain tissues. And there is a controlling them is important to prevent further neuronal damage, hypoxia, and secondary brain injury. Okay, and then we have the non-pharmacological management. We have the oxygenations provided lang by the nasal cannula, and then we have the mechanical ventilations is necessary in cardiorespiratory insufficiency. Okay, and then we have on the part of nursing management. On the nursing management, yes, we obtain the history of the recent infections, such as the upper respiratory infections and exposure to the causative agents. And we need also to assess the neurologic status and vital signs and evaluate the meningeal irritation. So dito, ina-assess na natin yung mga visual and hearing, cranial nerve damage, and diminish of the cognitive functions. So, kailangan na po natin i-assess yun. Okay, these are some example of diagnosis in terms of encephalitis. So, kapag gagawa po tayo ng mga nursing care plan in terms of our patients, so these are the sample of diagnosis that we use. Depende on the cases of our patients. Next, ang goal lang naman natin dito is to enhance the cerebral tissue perfusions, to maintain the fluid balance, to reduce the fever, to reduce the pain, and also to return to the optimal level of functionings or mobility. Okay? So, intervention lang natin. Una, we need to enhance cerebral perfusion. So, dito, we need to assess the LOC natin, the vital signs and neurologic parameters frequently. So, dito, kailangan po natin makita or i-observe natin the signs and symptoms of intracranial pressure na kwan po natin. Tapos, maintain a quiet, calm environment to prevent agitations which may cause on the intracranial pressures. And prepare our patient for lumbar puncture. Ito na po yung ating CSF or cerebrospinal fluid evaluations. And repeat the spinal tap if indicated. Okay, and then we need also to notify our healthcare provider any signs and symptoms in terms of the deteriorations. So, nagkakaroon ng increase ng temperature or nagdi-decrease yung kanyang LOC, nagkakaroon ng seizure activity or altered respirations. Okay? Another, we need also to maintain the fluid balance. Bakit natin kailangan i-maintain? Kasi nga, di ba, prevent the IV fluid overload can worsen cerebral edema. We also monitor the intake and output and monitor the CPB frequently and osmotic diuretic administration. So yan yung isang pharmacologic natin kanina na management in terms of osmotic. Okay? And then we have reducing the fever. Alam naman natin, administer antimicrobial agent on time to maintain the optimal blood levels. We need also to monitor frequently or continuously and administer the antipyretic as ordered by our doctor and institute other cooling measures. Yung tinatawag natin the hypothermia blanket as indicated or yung tinatawag natin the tepid sponge bath. Okay, may be given to our patients so that can least or less the fever or the increasing of the temperature of our patients. Okay, also we need also to reduce the pain of our patients. We need also to promoting the return to the optimal level of functioning. So, yan yung mga kwan po natin, mga sample po natin in terms of interventions in our patients. So, expected outcomes natin, syempre kung meron tayong interventions, may goal po tayo, ano yung outcome natin. So, based on the diagnosis or based on the intervention. So, ito na po yung mga ina-expect natin. Especially, for example, on the fever, we need to reduce the fever. Yung fluid balance, kailangan natin i-maintain. Kasi nga, di ba, there is an edema, pagmamanas. Okay? So, prevention, ito yung some preventions that we can do for the encephalitis. The most effective way to prevent is the mosquito bites. So, preventive measures are directed toward the eradications of mosquito vectors. And number 2, we need to eliminate or eliminations of the breeding places, destructions of larvae, screening of homes should be carried out in the community. And then we need also to use insect repellent, wear long sleeve shirts and pants, thread clothing and gear. And also, we need to broad public education program that is important piece of all the preventive programs. Okay? To summarize or to sum up this one, we already discussed about the encephalitis, the type, the cause, the risk factor, the pathophysiology, the clinical manifestation, the diagnostic evaluations, and management and preventions. Okay, and then in conclusions, encephalitis, that is the inflammations of the brain that is usually a viral infections. Okay, usually ang kanyang symptoms is flu-like symptoms.